The Palestinian Hamas movement and its rival Al Fatah party agreed to set up a joint committee for the post-war governance of Gaza. In China, authorities banned exports of key metals to the United States after Washington increased technology restrictions. South American countries agreed to strengthen energy cooperation at the second meeting of vice ministers of energy of the Brasilia consensus. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Palestinian Hamas movement and its rival Al Fatah party, which supports President Mahmoud Abbas, have agreed to set up a joint committee for the post-war governance of Gaza. According to this plan, which was reached in Egypt's capital, Cairo, and which still needs the approval of the Palestinian presidency, the committee would be made up of a group of 10 to 15 non-partisan figures with authority in matters related to the economy, education, health, humanitarian aid, and construction. Hamas and Al Fatah have also agreed that this committee would administer the Palestinian side of the Rafah checkpoint bordering Egypt, the only passage to the territory they do not share with Israel. And a newly released report by the United Nations warns of starvation in northern Gaza due to the Israeli siege, which has completely deprived many people of food and water. The siege maintained by the Israeli Zionist troops for almost 2 months now includes, in addition to the constant bombardments, a restriction on the entry of humanitarian aid. This way, out of the 200 trucks a day contemplated in the UN assistance agreement, Israel does not allow more than 36. As a consequence, bakeries in the north have closed due to the lack of flour, leaving the people trapped in destroyed homes without food or water, having to resort to negative habits such as skipping meals and or eating out of the garbage to alleviate hunger. And also in Palestine, artist Maisa Youssef continues to share her creativity through her works as a means to help the people of the Gaza Strip in the midst of the Israeli aggression in the territory. According to local media, the renowned painter expresses her ideas and emotions through her unique artistic style, transforming the pain of destruction into art on the shattered canvases left behind by Israeli bombardments. Youssef stated that she intends to continue her artistic career despite the hardships she has faced and the fact that her studio is under rubble. The Palestinian painter expressed she is documenting her reality through art in order to immortalize it in the history of humanity.
During the first displacement, we faced extremely difficult conditions. We left under fire and shelling and returned when the situation improved. But in the second displacement, there was a military order to evacuate the area. We had to leave everything and focus only on saving our lives and our children. When we returned on August 24th, my house was 85% destroyed, and now I live in what can barely be considered a house. Despite all this, I am still going ahead with my artistic career. My studio used to be a space full of life and creativity, where I also organized workshops for children. Now, although I no longer have that space, I try to continue because I believe that creativity does not stop. I am working to document what we have lived through during this war and to transmit my experiences through my art. We are still living, and we are still creating to tell our story.
In other news, the Syrian Defense Ministry confirmed on Tuesday that its fighter jets alongside Russian allies are carrying out heavy operations against terrorist formations in the north of the Middle Eastern nation. This way, raids were mounted in southern Idlib and northern Hama, neutralizing dozens of terrorists from the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group, backed by the United States and Israel. Syrian troops, with the support of Russia's military, managed to contain the group advances, destroying ammunition and vehicles. In this context, while the Syrian-Russian alliance curbs terrorism posing a threat for the whole region, the Israeli regime dropped bombs on nearby Damascus airport in support of the extremists, where outlets reported the destruction of a vehicle. The Democratic Republic of the Congo denounced the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, before the African Court of Human and People's Rights for serious human rights violations in the province of North Kivu. According to the claim, Rwanda is alleged to have committed such serious crimes as the plundering of minerals, rape of children, women, and massacres, as well as decades of aggression. According to the Congolese Vice Minister of Justice, Samuel Memba, the hearing will take place on February 12th at the tribunal's headquarters in Tanzania. Kinshasa has already denounced Kigali to the International Criminal Court, which accepted the Congolese invitation to investigate the alleged crimes and violations. We now have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Tuesday, China responded firmly to U.S. measures banning exports of key metals to the North American country. The move comes after Washington announced new technology restrictions. Precisely as of Tuesday, any organization or individual from any country or region that violates this decision of the Chinese government will be held accountable under the law. In turn, after accusing the United States of an act of economic coercion, China decided to suspend exports of gallium, germanium, antimony, and graphite, key metals for both civil and military use. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce claimed the measure is aimed at protecting the nation's security and interests. And Russia discussed the elaboration of a strategy for the development of the education system until 2040. The document is being prepared on behalf of the president and will be presented in the spring of 2025. Oleg Jasinski with the details.
The development of a unified education strategy for the country is under preparation in Russia. This national project, as part of Youth and Children, is to be submitted to the government in March 2025 and will involve experts in the field of education, teachers, rectors of leading universities, business representatives, state corporations, students, and young people. The country faces great challenges.
There is still a great demand to improve the quality of national education, but there are also serious problems. This involves a high bureaucratic burden on teachers and a shortage of teachers in several regions. Several systemic decisions have already been taken to improve this area. The President has developed a comprehensive action plan aimed at improving the quality of education in mathematics, physics, and natural science subjects in general in all schools in the country, and at increasing the level of teacher training in these disciplines and eliminating the shortage of personnel.
The issue of youth policy is of strategic importance to the country, especially at this historic moment. Today's young people are the future of the country, and everything possible must be done to help them learn to express themselves and their talents, set goals, and achieve success. Many reforms in recent years have been counterproductive for educational development, so they need to be reevaluated.
We must return to traditional Russian education. We can no longer train high school students for the unified state exam, instead of providing them with real skills. The indicator of education was not the quality, but the number of machine-readable points. I think one of the important achievements of last year's State Duma was the passage of the unified curriculum and unified textbook law in the humanities. We got rid of hundreds of actual textbooks written under the dictation of Soros consultants.
The needs and wishes of the students themselves and their parents are also taken into account when developing the strategy. To collect data on their expectations, sociological studies are conducted on the Government Services Portal. There are working groups with university students, as well as with middle and high school students.
This is work on a scale unprecedented in our country's modern history. In fact, the whole country is involved in it. The education system as a whole must meet the national goals and objectives set for us by the President and help to strengthen economic sovereignty in all key areas. To this end, it is necessary for the educational field to fully meet the personnel requirements of the industry.
State policy in the field of education will be implemented by granting subsidies to the regions, while emphasizing the importance of aligning regional projects with federal objectives, as well as the principles on which education policy is based. This coordination is aimed at increasing efficiency and achieving the goals of the National Education Project.
teleSUR, Moscow. And South American countries agreed to strengthen energy cooperation at the second meeting of Vice Ministers of Energy of the Brasilia Consensus. Representatives of the 12-member countries of the Brasilia Consensus met in the Colombian capital at the second meeting of Vice Ministers of Energy. This consultation mechanism was created to strengthen ties between neighboring countries in South Africa. In this framework, they agreed to consolidate integration to address the energy transition as a bloc. They also highlighted the importance of the technical reports prepared by the Latin American Energy Organization, which will be a key tool to guide the political and energy decisions of the bloc's member countries. And the normalization of relations between Colombia and Venezuela has enabled the government of Gustavo Petro to assist communities isolated by heavy rains through Venezuelan territory. Venezuela authorized the opening of a humanitarian corridor to bring assistance to the indigenous communities in the north of the Colombian department of La Guajira. The opening includes land transit from Paraguación to Castilletes, facilitating the delivery of food, hygiene, and kitchen kits, among other aid to the municipalities such as Maicao and Uribia. In addition, it will allow the access of organizations such as the Civil Defense and the Colombian Red Cross, ensuring medical attention and the provision of basic supplies. We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Argentina, the People's Economic Workers Union informed that the Ministry of Human Capital, led by Sandra Petrovello, will reincorporate 66 community soup kitchens through the program Alimentar Comunidad. In this respect, the union's Secretary General Alejandro Gramajo expressed the action signifies a very important victory since it allows these centers to supply food to hundreds of families. Gramajo also pointed out that they will continue to organize popular mobilizations to fight hunger and strengthen community organization. The soup kitchens were reincorporated into the program after a federal judge gave an ultimatum to the ministry, warning the state would have to pay a large fine if it failed to comply with the order. The United Nations World Food Programme announced that it will expand its services in Port-au-Prince, the capital of Haiti, to respond to the increasing food needs of Haitians. The displacement of at least 50,000 people due to criminal armed violence worsened the country's food crisis. Wanja Cardia, local director of the program, ratified a commitment with the people, detailing that they are working in the main office in Port-au-Prince and in 4 others throughout the country to attend to 5.4 million people facing acute hunger. So far this year, the program has assisted a total of 1.7 million people, prioritizing pregnant women, nursing mothers, and children under 5 years of age. And Venezuela will initiate a new electoral campaign on December 4th to elect justices of peace in over 4,800 communal circuits. The Venezuelan Minister of Communes, Angel Prado, confirmed there are already over 52,000 nominees for the historical date, set for December 15th. Precisely 4,840 out of the 5,297 communal circuits of the country will go to the polls to elect justices of peace, with 343 indigenous communities also casting their votes. In this regard, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, instructed the executive to support the communes in preparation for the election and called for large rallies to generate information for voters. Also in Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro stated that not a single migrant will reach the United States if the agreements of Qatar and Barbados were complied with and all the illegal sanctions applied against the Venezuelan people were lifted. The Venezuelan head of state stated that the country's ultra-right, together with the United States, prepared and infected the social medias with hate to sabotage the presidential elections of last July 28th and its aftermath. In this regard, the head of state affirmed that the Venezuelan people managed to defeat a cyber-fascist coup d'etat. Furthermore, he assured that if the sanctions against the Venezuelan people were lifted, no citizen would migrate to the U.S. and those who are outside the country could voluntarily return to their homeland.
Es lo que yo digo. Y se lo dije al gobierno de Estados Unidos
I have
ahora.
already said it, and I have told it to the government of the United States. I sent President Joe Biden to be told, although I don't know if they did it. If the agreements of Qatar and Barbados had been complied with by the United States government,
Por parte del gobierno de Estados Unidos, yo lo dije. Y lo repito aquí, Madeleine.
I said it, and I repeat it here, Madeleine. I repeat it here. Once Venezuela fully recovers, and if all the economic sanctions on Venezuela were lifted, the recovery would accelerate. And in less than a year, counted from the date when all the sanctions were lifted, not a single migrant would arrive in the United States. And furthermore, all those migrants who voluntarily wanted to return would be able to do so. I am sure that this would be so, because it is already being seen.
In Mexico, during the 16th International Afro-Indo-American Colloquium, specialists denounced the fact that racism seeks to gain recognition in various spheres, including politics. Let's see.
Donald Trump's electoral triumph in the United States is a clear example of how racist discourse is gaining ground in terms of social acceptance, says this specialist.
The rise of Donald Trump to the presidency creates a lot of questions, I think, for both the right and the left.
El racismo está ganando terreno. Eso nos dijo Durban en el 2001. ¿Cómo lo vemos hoy?
Racism is gaining ground, as Durbin told us in 2001. How we see it as an important revival of the strengthening of hate speeches with a racist patriarchal harassment, the legitimization of these speeches and racist practices both in the political, media, and cultural spheres.
During the 16th International Colloquium on Afro-Indo-America, held at the Metropolitan Autonomous University Iztapalapa Unit, academics warned that historically subjugated Afro-descendant peoples must continue to struggle for the recognition of their rights.
Restorative justice, climate justice, digital justice. We go with these three key demands as a key anti-racist paradigm with historical reparation at its core.
El coloquio sobre
The
pueblos
colloquium on African American people seeks to develop a critical panorama that goes beyond the academic debate and materializes in social actions.
I feel that these types of spaces are extremely important because they generate reflections and because it is directly a call to action so that from the academic world, we can also think about how to face these social problems that contribute to the perpetuation of practices that end up generating these social inequalities.
La presencia de los pueblos
The presence of
afrodescendientes
Afro-descendant peoples must be manifested in all areas to avoid the invisibility of their important contributions to Latin American culture.
A través de la invisibilización de estas poblaciones, ¿no?
Through
O sea,
the
creo
invisibilization
que
of these populations, bad
un tema
practices are perpetuated.
importante para visibilizar a estas poblaciones es justamente
I
que
believe that an important
insistir
theme to
en
visualize these
la,
populations is
la
precisely to insist on the cultural
presencia,
presence
¿no?
and in all
y
aspects of these
cultural
populations
y en todos los aspectos de la vida cotidiana de estas poblaciones en los diferentes países
in the
latinoamericanos.
different Latin American
Y
countries
regional
and
de
in general in
América, ¿no? O sea,
America,
creo
in all of
que
America, from the north to
África
the south.
está en toda América, ¿no? Desde el norte hasta el sur.
en América Latina se estima
In
que
Latin
habitan
America,
cerca de
there are an
134
estimated
millones de personas
134 million
afrodescendientes,
people of
lo que
African
representa el
descent,
20% de la población
representing
total de
20%
esta
of the
región del
region's
mundo.
total
La
population,
mayoría de ellos
most of them
en
living
situaciones
in
de pobreza
poverty
o
or vulnerability.
Además de la lucha permanente
In
contra el
addition to the
racismo, los
ongoing
pueblos
struggle against
afrodescendientes contra el
racism,
racismo, los pueblos
Afro-descendant people
afrodescendientes
seek to
buscan
discuss
discutir nuevas
new
demandas
demands
como
such
la
as
justicia
climate
climática,
justice,
el
Afrofeminism,
y los
and
derechos
human
humanos
and
y
labor
laborales.
rights.
Antonio Aranda, TeleSUR, Ciudad de México.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.